everybody, this is Buff El Gato with BlueMark Entertainment. Doing a Halloween special. I'm here with AngryMan, bluphraust, Curtis. Ramsey Black couldn't make it, so we have two guests. We have Alpha and Ultra. Met you
Yeah,
guys.
everybody wish Ramsey Black well in his transitional surgery. We support him.
Yeah. Hopefully he'll or she'll come out all right, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Met you guys through ARC. What, about 5 months ago, maybe? I don't know how long it's been.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
probably
seems about 5 months.
You guys still playing that
what you
Scorched
say,
Earth?
March? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think all my dinosaurs are dead. I left the group and I wasn't on for like a week. I went on there and I had a Dodocurus, a T-Rex, and a Carno, and they're all gone. And my Dodocurus was inside my house. So how he got out, I'm guessing he died. I don't know, but whatever. And you know they're having that Halloween thing starting up soon for the Xbox for ARC.
Yeah, it was supposed to start today, but
Yeah, they came on and
yeah.
apologized. They said that it started up for
Oh, really?
PC, yeah, but not for the Xbox One yet. But they're gonna have vampire bats, rabid wolves. You can turn into a werewolf or vampire. I think you can tame snakes. That might be a permanent thing there, the taming the snakes thing.
Hey, could be
Yeah, and then
nice.
and then Destiny, they're doing the Halloween thing, the fall festival. That's that's
I'll have
good.
to go on there soon.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So what we're going to be talking about tonight is spooky, creepy, unexplainable stories that's happened to us. Um, I guess I can go ahead and tell one. I can start. Um, See, I'm not really a superstitious or religious person. I always try to find like an explanation for everything. And I remember back in my beach house when I was about 14, living there with my parents. I remember my father, he had a grandfather clock, and only he would be the one that wound it up and took care of it. Nobody else touched it. And I remember we were sitting there, and he had a heart attack, and basically, like, he instantly died, just fell over and died. And took him to the hospital. No, they couldn't resuscitate him or anything like that. And I remember them marking the time of his death. I mean, when we came back, it's just really coincidental, I guess. The grandfather clock had stopped on the exact time that he died, right? And we just never touched it. We put a lock on it. We didn't want anybody to open it up and mess with it or anything like that. My mom's an artist, so she painted a huge portrait of my father, and she hung it up next to the grandfather clock. Anyway, years go by. My mom ended up dating someone else. They ended up getting married, and he had his own house. So she moved in with him. I basically took over the beach house, and they would come down and visit every once in a while. And anyway, being the new man, the new husband, he didn't want to see my father's portrait out in a house that is basically his now too, right? So he got my mother to move the grandfather clock and the picture into the guest bedroom. So it's kind of like out of sight, sort of. Anyway, I'm sitting there watching TV by myself in this beach house. I call it the beach house. It's about a half a mile from the beach, but it's basically in the swamps, out in the middle of the woods. I'm sitting there watching TV there by myself out in the middle of the woods, and the lamp in the guest bedroom where my dad's picture and grandfather clock, it cuts on, right? So I get up, and I'm thinking, okay, somebody's in this damn house, you know. So I go in there, and Search the room, nobody's in there. I'm like, okay, the cord must be loose. Go and check the cord. The cord's tight in the wall. I cut the lamp off. So I go back out, sit on the couch. I'm sitting there watching TV. Lights are off. It's the middle of the night, Only thing that's on is the TV. Guest bedroom light, which is, you can see the guest bedroom from the living room where I'm sitting. The lamp comes back on. So I'm like, hold up, what the hell's going on? So I go in there, cut it off, and the bathroom's right next to the guest bedroom. So I go into the bathroom, use the bathroom. I come out of the bathroom, right when I'm walking by the door of the guest bedroom, the lamp cuts on. Well, I just haul ass, like as brave as I think I am. This is the third time it cuts on right next to me. I just haul ass, run into the living room. Anyway, I pick up the phone and call my mom to see, what the hell's going on, Anyway, it turns out she's like, oh, that's happened to me all the time, She says there's a shortage in the wire, right? So I just go and unplug the lamp. But that shit freaked me out, man. When you're there all by yourself and this lamp just keeps cutting on and off, I was like, my friend told me, he said, you know what, you're lucky when you unplugged it that it didn't cut on, because then you would have, if you would have unplugged it, then it would cut on and get the hell out of the house. But, yeah, that shit, I was looking for every, explanation I could, but after a few times, that shit, it'll get to you, man.
Mm-hmm. I bet.
Curtis, you told me a story one time about somebody sitting on your bed in the middle of the night.
Oh yeah,
And this was when you were living in that tool shed, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just sleeping, woke up, felt like there's a presence in the room. So I wake up to look around, but I can't move. And as I'm laying there trying to either move or go back to sleep, this felt like somebody sat on the end of my bed. My bed went down, and I couldn't move to see who it was.
Yeah.
Hopefully it wasn't Bill Cosby.
No, he would have been gone by the time you woke up. But me and Ramsey Black was talking about that, and anybody can Google this. That's called sleep paralysis. And I had it one time where I woke up in the middle of the night and I was face down on my pillow and I couldn't move, and it felt like I was suffocating. And luckily,
sure you weren't face down and Jim Bob was sitting on you?
No, and I was able to speak, and I was telling my girlfriend at the time, I was like, hey, roll me over, wake up, roll me over. She rolled me over, and then about maybe 10 minutes go by, which seems like forever when you can't move. I started to be able to move, and it's just, you're half awake, half asleep. You're conscious of everything that's going on around you, but you just can't move. And Ramsey Black, he was telling me the same thing. He said he woke up one time in the middle of the night, couldn't move, and this like the girl from The Ring, he was seeing her like hover over him, and he was looking around the room and he was wide awake, but for some reason this like dream was still going on and he was paralyzed. But yeah, I recommend anybody looking that up, sleep paralysis, because it can definitely happen to you. And I guess your body's fear of not being able to move, it go ahead and conjures up like nightmares like that, like Curtis feeling like somebody's at the end of his bed, or the girl hovering over Ramsey, things like that.
I've got a story from when, this is way before Curtis and Curtis's dad and my mom got together. It was, my dad used to work for a guy, this is when I was like 10 years old. My dad worked for a guy that owned like a big piece of farmland. And so he was able to, well, basically live in a house off of close to the farmland for free as long as he worked on the tractors, helped him on the farm and stuff. And it had all these like little farm storage rooms, I guess you would call them. Not rooms, but little sheds.
Yeah.
And my mom would use one of them for like storage. So one night she comes in like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And we're like, what's going on? What's going on? And she's like, there's a baby crying out in the shed. I'm like, what? So of course, being a kid, oh, that's what? So we go out there, and sure enough, we heard a baby crying. Like, wah. No, I mean, I can't like do a baby cry,
Yeah.
but it sounded just like a baby crying.
One of the most beautiful noises, unless you're there by yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's 3 a.m. and you don't have a baby. Yeah. But it was so weird. We couldn't figure out what was going on, and we just thought like, oh crap, And and it kept happening. Then all of a sudden it went away, and then it was like, okay, whatever. And then it happened again. Well, turned out it was a baby deer
Oh wow.
trapped right behind the shed in some barbed wire fence. And most people think deer don't make any noise. No, deer make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And it was making a noise, and it sounded just like a human baby crying.
Oh wow.
But of course, my mom said, "Oh no, I didn't hear. That's not what I heard." She swore up and down it was a baby, but
Yeah.
that's one of the freakiest things that happened to me.
Yeah. Blue, you got any stories like that?
Yeah, I got a few, but probably the worst one was I was dating this girl one time, and she had told me when I moved in with her that her place was haunted. I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. Kind of been around that before. I was like, we'll see. And so one night we're up watching TV, and apparently I fell asleep on the couch, and she had went ahead and went to bed before I did. Well, I wake up, and I'm waking up to the sound of Itsy Bitsy Spider,
Oh man.
like a child singing it.
Yeah.
And she had a 6-year-old daughter, so when I first started waking up, this was probably about 1 or 2 in the morning. I'm thinking like, oh, Addison must like have one of her games or little toys must be on or something. So I sit up, and when I sit up, I realize there's no toys on, there's nothing but this like child's voice singing Itsy Bitsy Spider. And Buff, kind of like you were saying earlier about, getting the hell out of there as fast as you could. All I knew to do at the time was laugh and walk as fast as I could out of the room.
So just like a crazy person.
And
make
yeah.
make the ghost
So-
think you're crazy. That way you're safe.
yeah, like this is just me doing this. So I go back to where she's sleeping, and I wake her up, and I'm like, oh my God, I tell her what's happened, and from where she had been asleep, and I guess she had already, had some stuff happen to her. She's like, yeah, it's crazy or whatever. So she tries to go back to sleep, and I'm like, well, I kind of want to fool around, you know what I mean? Especially after what just happened. I'm trying to get my mind off that.
Yeah.
So, this is pretty crazy, but I start, doing my business, and everything's cool, and we had the door open. I'm probably about 5 minutes into it, and the door slammed shut. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I did a Rambo dive off to the side of the bed and grabbed the covers. I don't know why, like the covers are gonna protect you, from Supernatural.
Yeah.
So I grabbed the covers. I'm like, oh my God! And she rolls off, and we're kind of just both, sitting there on the floor like, oh my God, did that just happen? And needless to say, we didn't get any sleep for the rest of the night. I don't think we slept till like the sun came up. But yeah, that place was.
So it was just like no explanation except for
Well, the only
Just
thing I can tell
possibly
you,
haunted.
background, the previous person that lived there was an old lady and
Yeah.
a little dog, and she passed away in the place
Uh,
before my girlfriend moved in there. It was rental, so
yeah. Yeah, I've had things cut on kind of
yeah,
like
that
that
freaked me
lamp.
out.
Like one time I was staying with a friend in Wilmington, and we were there like all day, all night, and just like 2 o'clock in the morning, the hair dryer cut on, and like on high speed, it sounded like a motorcycle. It's like, what the hell? Went in there and unplugged it. It's like, hold up, it was fully plugged in, and the switch is on. So why wasn't it on all day until 2 o'clock in the morning? Like, I don't know, it just, that was really weird to me. But Alpha, you got anything?
Um, I say about 4 months ago, something happened in my bedroom. I was playing Ark real late at night, and I seen a flash of light on the edge of my bed. And I was like, no, everybody was asleep, and it was just me. And then my dog that was laying on the bed noticed it too. So I got up off the bed, like looking around, seeing where that light was.
Yeah.
I could not find it. I was just lost to words.
It was just like a real quick flash, like
Like,
did it like a phone cut on and off, kind of like that type of thing, or a flashlight.
yeah,
Yeah.
it freaked me out. I woke my wife up,
Yeah.
and I was telling her about it and everything. And we was up all night.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy.
I got one that was yesterday.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I came out the bedroom, and Tia and everybody else was asleep. And I heard Madison crying in her room. And I just figured she didn't want to go to sleep. So I just went to the bathroom and came out, and she was talking to somebody. And I don't know, I was just listening and see what she was saying, and then all of a sudden she just burst out crying. And it kept sounding like somebody was running around in her room. So I felt a little worried, so I opened the door, and she was tucked in bed, just crying away, and the noise stopped, like the running around.
Yeah.
So it freaked me out. I tried to calm her down to get her to go back to sleep, and she jumped up and ran out of the room.
Yeah. I'm glad you did that. Tia was telling me about that. I'm glad she took off running, but I was thinking maybe, because like I said, I'm always looking for an explanation. I'm wondering if the noises was she was slamming her feet down the bed or something. You know what I'm saying? Like scissor kicking the bed or something. I don't know, but yeah, she was in there crying just a little bit ago when we put her to bed, but she came back out here and laid with me, and she's fine now. But yeah, I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you checked on her, because anything could have been going on. She could have been in there hurt or something. So I appreciate that. Ultra, did you have anything?
Creepy.
Wow.
Well, I don't have any ghost stories like that, but I have some stories about when I was younger.
Yeah.
That my dad would always dress up and try to scare us kids and everyone in the family.
Sometimes that's
I got a story.
good, I
It didn't
guess.
happen to me, but it happened to someone I know, and Curtis knows him. Curtis, you remember, well, Anthony, your cousin or brother, or how, I don't know how he's related to you.
Your friend.
No, Curtis, I'm talking to Curtis, my brother. Curtis,
Oh, your cousin's mother, sister's brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Curtis, you remember Anthony?
Uh,
He's from West Virginia.
talking about my
Earl's
stepbrother?
other son. Yeah, stepbrother. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, if you know Anthony, you know Ben, right? He's
No.
close to stepbrother.
I could
No,
be
not at
close
all.
to a stepbrother. Like engaged to no, that wouldn't work. How would that work? Anyway, go ahead.
Is he
Well,
fucking my
okay.
brother?
Anyway,
Fuck it. Yeah, just go to the story.
they're at someone's house. I think it's Anthony's house, and it's after a party. They both Ben's too drunk to drive, so they decide to stay.
Hmm.
So Anthony says, "Okay, I'm gonna sleep up here. Sleep downstairs." He's like, "Okay." So Anthony goes downstairs and he asks Ben. He says, "Dude, you already made up the couch?" Like, what are you talking about? I haven't been downstairs yet. What are you talking about? The couch is made up. He's like, "Dude, come on now. You already been downstairs." He's like, "No, I ain't been downstairs. I've been sitting here with you." He's like, "Well, who the hell made up the couch?"
Yeah.
"I don't know." He said, "Oh, well." So don't pay no attention to it. Then about maybe 10, 15 minutes later, Anthony yells at Ben and says, "Dude, what the hell are you doing?" He's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Why the hell did you drink my beer?" "Dude, I didn't drink your beer." So they start realizing somebody's in the house. You know, they've already made the beer, made the bed, drunk the beer, and whatever. So they start to go searching through the house. One's got a baseball bat, the other one's got a knife. They said they searched the house from top to bottom. Didn't find nobody.
Hmm.
Well, needless to say, he didn't sleep downstairs.
Yeah.
They both go upstairs to his mom's room and sleeps in the mom's room.
Yeah.
The next morning,
Yeah, I would have been all gay
They-
that night. I would have been in bed with one of y'all that night.
yeah, so, well, anyway, the next morning,
I would have converted quick.
he, he said the next morning, they get up and they walk downstairs and they look and the front door's open.
Oh wow.
And standing at the front door is this homeless white lady. And she's like, "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't have anywhere to sleep, and the basement door was unlocked. So I've been staying here a couple days. I hope you don't mind."
Oh,
And
she
she
could have
just
killed
leaves.
him. Wow, she could have killed. That would have been freaky.
So, but here's the thing. They said, "Holy shit, someone's in the house. We didn't realize it." But they were like, well, especially Ben. Ben was like, "You know what? I'm kind of glad we didn't find her because it was like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're fucking high and drunk. One's got a knife and one's got a baseball bat." He said, "If we'd have found her, we'd have fucking murdered her."
Yeah, but could you imagine if you'd have came out of a bedroom, looked down the hallway, and at the end of the hallway you just see some shadow of a woman walk into another bedroom or some shit?
That's what I'm saying. He's like, "I'm glad we didn't find
I wouldn't
her."
even
We
murdered.
said-
I would have ran. I think
At,
set the house on
at
fire.
least if you'd have murdered her, it really been haunted.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Homeless woman ghost. Well, she wouldn't be homeless anymore if a ghost lived in your house, right?
Hey, if
True.
you guys ever
Not
see
wrong.
orbs, you need to get the hell out of there, quick.
Yeah. I tell you a story my grandfather told me when I was younger. And
Yellow snow.
no, yeah, well, that was one of them, yeah. And I thought this was the neatest story that he told me. And my grandfather, as far as I know, he's never lied to me. And I used to tell people this story, and people used to roll their eyes until it got to the end. It all makes sense at the end. But my grandfather's a preacher, so he was very spiritual and things like that. Well, he grew up at the time where he was a farmer, and it was back when farms were like 10, 15 miles, apart. If you wanted to go to somebody's house, it's like an all-day walk, or you got to take a horse, or something like that. This is like late 1800s, early 1900s. And anyway, my grandfather, for some reason, had to go to one of the neighboring farms. And like I said, it's about 10, 15 miles. And so he starts out that morning, he's walking, and most of the walk is through woods. And it's just a little pathway cut through the woods, just really deep, dense woods. Anyway, he walks over to the farm, and I forgot what he had to do. If he had to borrow something, let them borrow something, help him with something, I'm not sure. But anyway, he was there for majority of the day, and he said it was kind of drizzling and things like that, and he was there for hours, just all day long. And sun started to go down. So he was like, you know what? I need to get back. It's going to take a long time for me to walk back, and, I don't want to, be out all night. So he started walking back. And so anyway, he gets into the woods, and it's already dark in the woods anyway. But it's really late at night. It's pitch black. Moon's out. He's walking down this little tiny pathway through the middle of the woods, just, him by himself. And he's not scared of anything. He's just walking, And he comes around the corner of the pathway, and up ahead of him, about 30 or 40 feet, maybe a little bit further than that, he was telling me, there's this ghost floating in the middle of the pathway. It's about a foot up off the ground, hovering, and it's about a 6-foot ghost, just white and glistening, just sitting there, just hovering in the middle of the pathway. So he's looking at his options, and he's looking to the left, looking to the right, and just pitch black woods. And he's like, you know what? I can go around this ghost. I'm thinking, get the fuck out of there, right? Run away. He's thinking about getting home, right? He's like, okay, maybe I can go out in these dark woods and walk around this ghost. That way I don't bother it. It doesn't bother me. He's actually thinking this. Anyway, he's afraid that he'll get lost if he gets off the pathway. He won't be able to find his way back on, right? There's no lights. He has no lantern. He has nothing, right?
Oh, did he walk through the ghosts? They're really cold.
Yeah. So he pulls his knife out. Got a knife in his boot. Pulls his knife out, and he says, "Look, I don't want any trouble. Please move off the pathway. Let me by." The ghost just keeps sitting there. So he goes ahead and opens up his knife, right? He's like, "Look, I'm coming down this pathway. You either move or I'm going through you." The ghost keeps sitting there. He's like, "Okay, I warned you." So, right, he's going to try to fight this ghost with a knife. So anyway, he runs, and he tries to tackle this ghost, right? And when he tackles it, it turns out the whole day that he was at his friend's house was just enough time for a spider to web this huge spider web in the middle of the pathway. And when it rained, some of the water droplets got on it, and when the moon was out, it was reflecting off of it, and the wind was blowing it, so it looked like a ghost glowing, in the middle of the night, just floating there. But yeah, it turned out it was just a huge ass spider web. But I thought he was brave as hell for trying to fight a ghost with a knife, you know what I'm saying, out in the middle of the woods. But because to him, that's what he thought it was, And he's like, I'm gonna fight this motherfucker. But it turned out it was just a big ass spider web. I thought it was pretty neat. But
That's awesome.
yeah. So what else we got? We got any more? Halloween's just right around the corner. We got like 3 days to Halloween. There's been a few things that I couldn't explain that's happened. All right, this is going to sound like a really weird story. There's been things that I've done in my life that I should write a book about, but stick with me. I was going to a Salvadorian Pentecostal church in Canada once. And
That's a good start of a story.
Yeah. So the preacher was up talking, and he was saying, anybody. I just make this real short, as short as I can. He was saying anybody that wants to come up and repent or ask forgiveness or anything like that, come up here, right? And I'm not a religious person, but back then I kind of was. It was like at the end of my, I guess, religious phase. And I know some people after hearing the story are going to be like, that would have been reason to stay. But I went up there, and this church had like the biggest pews that I've ever seen. Like, you go to sit.
Biggest what?
Pews. You know what pews are, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like benches, like seats. They went from one edge of the building all the way to the right. There was like no like middle walkway. So anyway, I go up there, and my Spanish was pretty good, but I wouldn't say I was fluent. So a friend of mine who is Salvadorian, he's like, I'll translate. And I said, okay. So I go up there, and preacher asked me, get down on your knees and ask for forgiveness, whatever. He puts his one hand on the Bible, another hand on my head. He's talking to me in Spanish. And my friend's there with me. He's got his hand on my shoulder, and I'm looking down, and I think majority of the time my eyes are closed. But anyway, my friend's translating everything. Anyway, I feel a hand on the right side of my shoulder, and I can hear a man saying, he just keeps saying over and over. He's like, yeah, praise Jesus, yes, forgive Mark of his sins, this and this and this. And he's talking, and he'll say like 3 or 4 sentences, then he'll repeat it, and I can tell by his voice that it's my friend's father, because he's there at the church too. It's my friend's father. Anyway, the preacher keeps talking, Anyway, I feel another hand on my back, and it's a woman, and she's talking in Spanish, and she's crying. And I'm like, okay, who the hell is this? Like, who's the woman that's behind me with their hand on me, talking in Spanish, crying for me, Anyway, she's crying. I'm trying to, listen to my friend translate. Preacher's talking. I can hear my friend's father on my left. He's talking to me, the woman behind me crying. Anyway, preacher says, stand up. So I stand up, and he says a few lines, and my friend says, okay, God's forgiven you. You can go back to your seat. So I turn around, and my friend's dad is right there to my left, but there's no woman behind me. And I'm looking, and the closest woman is about 4 pews back. And I'm like, hold up. As soon as I stood up, it was only about 3 or 4 seconds before I turned around. She would have had to have hauled ass all the way around those pews, get down to that pew to sit down. I said, she had to have like ran, right? So I'm like, okay, that's what happened, right? She ran, whatever. So anyway, after church, we went and had a cookout at my friend's house. And me, him, and his dad's out there. And his dad's speaking Spanish. And my friend's translating what his dad says. And I'm like, why doesn't your dad just speak English to me? And he says, my dad can't speak English. And I said, yes, he can. He was speaking it at the church. When he was up there on my left side, he was speaking in English. And my friend was like, no, he wasn't. Like, he was up there, but he was speaking in Spanish. So he was, translating to his dad what I said, and his dad was like, telling my friend, he was like, no, I don't know English. I was up there with you, yes, but I was only speaking Spanish. And they're just looking at me like I was crazy, And that's, as much as I've gone to church in my life and different churches, that's the only thing that's ever happened to me in a church that I couldn't explain, And I kept thinking, okay, maybe my friend was just distracted on translating what the preacher was saying, so he wasn't listening to his dad, because I obviously heard his dad speaking English. And then I heard this woman behind me, so I don't know what happened there. But I always remember that. I thought that was the weirdest thing that's happened to me, especially inside of a church.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. Blue, do you remember that time me and Blue, I had a tree house down at the beach. And I can't remember if me and you stayed over that night. And I can't remember if we were staying in the tree house or we were staying in the house, but for some reason we went outside, middle of the night. And, you know, anytime my friends spent the night when I was kids, we'd usually stay out in my tree house, and we would just go walking up and down the street in the middle of the night, just talking or whatever, you know. It's just, you know, we didn't want to be cooped up. We just went out walking up and down the streets at night. And do you remember we kept hearing that screaming coming from the trees, like all around us? And I went out there with my shotgun. Do you remember that at all?
Yeah.
We were out there and we were walking through this field, and we heard this scream, like coming from the tree, like
a
way up in the air in
banshee.
front of us. Yeah, like a fucking banshee. And I had my gun, and I pulled my gun up, and then all of a sudden we heard it from the right of us. And I turned to the right. Then all of a sudden it was like behind us. And everywhere I turned, we just kept hearing this screaming coming from the treetops. And it kept like all around us. It just like kept circling us like fucking Predator or something. And
Yeah, like just like Predator.
yeah, and me and Blue were freaking out. I'm like, dude, there's nothing I can do. It's middle of the night. I can't see anything. We just keep hearing this screaming coming from all around us. Like it just keeps circling us. So anyway, me and Blue, we ran back to the house. You know, I kept guarding, like go, go, go. I kept looking behind to see if anything was following us. We ran inside and we're fine. Well, I don't know if I had ever told you this, Blue, but I found out like 3 days later that my neighbors down the street, their parrot had gotten loose, and they hadn't clipped the wings in a while, and it was their parrot that was out there making all those noises out in the trees and shit flying around.
Shit.
Yeah, it was a fucking parrot.
I've got a story. It's not really like haunted stuff and ghosts, but it's like a real life scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
I worked in hotels for a long time, you know, like front desk management and all that kind of stuff. Well, one night I'm at the front desk all by myself at a courtyard. And a young kid comes in trying to get a room, saying that he's visiting his parents from college and he can't stay with his parents. And his father is faxing over a credit card authorization form.
Mm.
So we haven't received it yet. So he says, well, let me go see what's going on. So about an hour later, he comes back, and it's sure enough, it's sitting on the fax, and we follow procedure, and I tell the girl at the front desk to go ahead and give him his room. And as she's checking him in, the guy's talking, and we're talking about Duke basketball, we're talking about, you know, all kinds of stuff. And I don't know, later on he comes down for like an extra blanket or something, I forget what it was. And we was talking about other stuff. You know, seemed like a cool guy. Well, I had the next 2 days off. I come in, and he's like, man, you never guess what happened. I'm like, what? The dude who checked in, that was the kid who murdered his two parents. I'm like, what? Yeah, in North Hills. The guy, they're talking about murdered his parents. It was him. I was like, holy shit, really?
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
like sitting there having like a normal conversation, and meanwhile, this guy has killed both his parents in their bed.
He was probably
At a
like
party
daydreaming about
while they
like
were dead.
eating your face or something. Just like his
I mean, it's
face with
just
some
like-
lettuce would be good.
To me, that's like how what another person can do to another human being is more frightening than a graveyard or a fucking wispy breeze or something.
That's the thing with scary movies. When I go to watch a scary movie, and everybody's different. But to me, the scariest movies are when when people are running from a crazy person. When I'm watching Freddy Krueger or Jason or Leprechaun or Child's Play or something like that, that shit's funny to me. Like, I'm just laughing. But like, you look at the old like Cape Fear with Robert De Niro. I was just like, oh man, I'm like biting my nails because I'm like, is this because you never know what a crazy person is capable of doing. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to monsters and stuff like that, that shit doesn't bother me. But when it comes to a crazy person, it's like, man, you never know what they're capable of doing.
Yeah, that stuff never bothers me either. Like The Witcher and fucking Last Light and all that stuff. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you get like a real guy, like fucking Jeffrey Dahmer crap, man, that shit's fucking.
I'll tell you one thing that was
like I said,
Iceman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it. You ever watch the original documentary?
Yeah. Oh, he was stone cold. You talking about Iceman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said the interviewer asked him one time. He's like, "What's one of the people you have killed that you regret?" He's like, "Well, there was this one guy who, I'm getting ready to pop him in the back of the head with a 22." And he starts please God and all over the place, and he kind of gets me upset. So I go around front and I said, "Look, I'm tired of you saying that. So guess what? I'm going to give you 10 minutes to pray to your God, and if he intervenes, you live.
Yeah.
If not, you're going to die."
Yeah.
So he said, I sit in a chair close by him, and he's praying for God to help him. He's like, nothing happens. And I blow his brains out and I go home.
Yeah.
He said, he said about a week later I felt bad about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just crazy.
Like, holy fuck.
Now, Blue, I don't know if you remember this. Me and Blue used to work at a golf course together down at the beach. And I told Blue this story 20 years ago. And I don't think we ever talked about it since. So if you don't remember it, I understand.
This is about when you were working at the tavern by yourself?
Yeah, and I...
All right, go ahead.
It was... So I'm in... we got 2 clubhouses at this golf course. I'm working in one, and Blue is working at the other one, on the other side of the property. And it's probably about... We
had to work banquets, like 400, 500 people.
Yeah, and most of the time we work together.
3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes.
Yeah, but this night we're working in different buildings, and it's about 4 miles apart. And what we'd do a lot of times to save gas is we'd ride golf carts back and forth, delivering stuff like maybe Blue's clubhouse where he's working at. They're like, hey, we need some more prime rib, or we need ice, or we need trash bags. And I might run that over there, and Blue might do the same if we need it, or if I'm called up on my work, I might go over there and see if Blue needs help, things like that. So I'm on a little golf cart. You know, golf cart has no protection, only goes like 15 miles per hour. Anyway, I'm in a golf cart, and I'm going to go over to see Blue, and this is the middle of the night. It's probably about 11 o'clock, maybe midnight, and I'm going, and out in the woods, there's like condos there now, but back then it was just woods. Off in the woods it was like a dozen girls, probably about 8 years old. They all got like dresses on. They're holding hands.
Fuck that.
And they're dancing around in a circle, kind of like Ring Around the Roses or whatever. They're just dancing in a circle. And there's like a street light shining from across the street so you could see them. And they're just dancing in a circle. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I ride a golf cart by, trying to just like, please don't break down, and please don't nobody come after me. It's just pitch black out. There's like one street light like every mile or something. Anyway, I get up to Blue's golf clubhouse. I tell him about it. You know, we're just like, what the fuck?
You were freaked out.
Yeah. So later on, I had to go back. I had to go back and get my car. So I go back, and I'm not going to look. So whenever I get to that area, I look over there into the woods, and there's a circle of black crows. Where the girls were, it was crows. Just big circle of birds. I'm like, what the fuck? So I fly to the clubhouse, anyway, clock out, get in my car. And I can't remember if I went home or if I went back over there to see Blue. I can't remember. Anyway, it was a couple days later. I'm at the clubhouse and I'm talking about it. What it was it was around this time of year. It was a group of Christians that came down to stay at this golf resort. And for some reason, they let a bunch of the kids, it was like a kids group, they let a bunch of the kids go out at night. And what they were doing was they had, I guess they're out there playing or whatever. It turns out that it was around like trick-or-treating time and things like that. Anyway, they were out there supposedly, this is what one of the guys was telling me that he thinks what happened. That he was like, yeah, I know the group. There's a bunch of little girls that's with them and things like that. They came to the banquet, this and this and this. And he was saying that the groundskeeper, when he went out there, he found a bunch of candy wrappers and popcorn. So what they were saying was they went over there and they're eating candy and they're just, eating popcorn and shit like that. And they probably it got late. They went home. And these birds came in to eat the fucking popcorn that they left behind. But it was still fucking
Mark,
weird.
Can you hear me?
It was just weird. Especially when you don't know the explanation.
Mark, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, he kept going when I was saying, hey, can you hear me? I didn't know if you could hear me.
He was talking.
Trying to finish.
I know that, but what I was saying is like...
yeah, why would you ask me?
When I said, Mark, can you hear me? And he didn't say anything.
Okay. Why? What's that? I was in the middle of a story. What are you talking about?
Conversation, yeah.
Yeah.
Since, we're doing scary stories or whatever.
All right.
What's the scariest movie that you've seen?
Scariest what?
He said scariest movie.
Oh.
Our Dog Strikes Back.
I would say one of the scariest movies I've seen, and some people laugh at it, but this is during the time when I lived in that beach house out in the middle of the woods, out in the middle of the fucking swamp by myself. When Blair Witch first came out, the very first one. Part 2 was a joke. But when Part 1 came out, because you never saw what was after them, you just figured it was like a crazy person, like I was saying, like crazy people are just scary to me. Like, because you never know what they're going to do. I said the very first Blair Witch, because I used to go to movies and watch them by myself. And then I come home, and I pull into a yard with no street lights out in the middle of the swamp. You get out, it's just, trees, bushes everywhere. It's just, you're out in the middle of the woods. And, sitting here now, I'm like, yeah, that's nothing. But if you're out in the middle of the woods, it's like I used to joke about your brain, the way your brain works. As soon as you get somewhere dark, your brain says, hey, I got a great idea. Let's think about monsters right now, And, I just couldn't stop thinking about that movie. So I thought that was pretty scary.
I remember one of the scariest movies for me growing up was a movie called Prince of Darkness. It had nothing to do with Dracula.
Uh-huh.
What it was a movie that was like the devil and his son, whatever, was actual beings from like a different dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way they were able to stop him was like encase him in this, like, I don't know, like it was like a test tube really, and it was this like essence. And all these scientists gathered to this church because it was found, and they started studying it. And they had all this scientific data and these like old dead languages that nobody spoke before. And it made it so like the science part of it for me, because I have a very scientific, thinking mind. It made it very real.
Mm-hmm.
And the liquid got was poured out, and it was on the ceiling, and it was dripping, but it was dripping upward, defying gravity. And this lady was laying there, and all the liquid went in her body, and she was taken over, and she was like looking in a mirror and yelling "Father," and she could use the mirror as a portal to bring him back.
Hmm.
And it was just really real to me.
Yeah, the first Exorcist, when it first came out, and no one had ever seen anything like that, that shit was scary. You know?
I'll tell you guys a movie to watch.
What's that?
The French movie. It's a horror movie. You like real crazy people, stuff like that?
Yeah.
It's called Frontiers, with the S in a parentheses bracket.
Yeah.
And it's got Nazis, incest, cannibalism, serial killers,
Oh, wow. All the good stuff.
rape.
Yeah.
I
Except
think
for
they
that
covered all the bases and lots of gore. So
Yeah.
make sure you watch that. It's really good.
one. All right. All right. I always try to steer away from rape. I've been like that my whole life, man. I used to go to Blockbuster, and at the back of a movie, I would read it. If it said, violence, da 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 da, strong language, sex, whatever, it wouldn't bother me. But if I saw rape, I'd put the movie back. Even though I know it's fake, I can't stand watching a movie that has rape in it. I just won't watch it.
You should have been on Destiny earlier. My friend got raped at the tower.
Yeah.
The scariest movie I think I've seen
Yeah.
would probably be Al Gore's An Inconvenient Truth. Climate change, that's a scary thing.
Do you believe in climate change?
But it's definitely changing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like fall, winter, summer.
Well, I mean,
It's changing.
I prove you
That's
wrong.
seasons.
I got a snowball in my freezer.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I'll tell you one last story, unless somebody else has something, real quick. My dad's best friend went hunting up in the mountains, and his two sons went up there, and his two sons knew the mountains like the back of their hand. And they went up there, and they told his dad, they said, look, you stay here,
No, it's a drop.
and the two of us are going to go on the other side of the mountain. And they're hunting for deer and some other stuff. And they said, we're going to walk up the other side of this mountain. We'll be back tomorrow morning. So they left him there kind of like camping out by himself. So he's sitting there up against a tree, and, they don't have tree stands or anything. They're just out in the middle of the woods. So he's sitting up against a tree trying to be quiet and everything. He's got him something to eat, something to drink, this and this and this. So he doesn't say anything. He's out there by himself. Well, it starts getting dark. We don't have a tent or anything, so he's just sitting there, and he's thinking about making a fire. Well, all of a sudden, he hears, like Blue, like what me and you heard. He starts hearing all this screaming
Oh, God.
coming from the trees. And he's got his gun, and he's just sitting there, and he's too scared to put the gun down to light a fire now. And the screaming just keeps going on and on and on all night long, dude. Like, he is stressed the fuck out. He can't run anywhere because he doesn't know where he's at. If he runs anywhere, his sons won't be able to find him. So he has to stay there being surrounded by something that's in the treetops screaming. He's got his gun. He can't light a fire. He can't go to sleep. He can't do anything. He says that he was like, he couldn't go use the bathroom. He was like shitting and pissing in his pants. Everything. Next day, finally the sun comes up. Now in the mountains, sun comes up late, goes down early because it gets blocked by the mountains, right? So it's like 9:30 before there's even any light, coming over the mountains. His son's come back. He's sitting there stressed out, white as a sheet, pants filled with piss and shit, just sitting there freaking the fuck out. Heart rate's been up, all night long. His son's asking what happened. He told him. All of a sudden, they heard the screech again. They both turn, all three of them. All three of them turn around, look up. What it was two trees leaned up against each other, and the wind was blowing them, so they were rubbing against each other. And that's all it was, just the wind blowing two trees. Yeah. But I've heard that.
Nice.
I've been camping enough. You hear that? It sounds almost like a cat. Like a panther or something, but yeah, it's two trees like squeaking against each other.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, guys, is that it? You want me to go ahead and conclude this one? Anybody else got anything? Alpha, Ultra, y'all got anything else?
I'm pretty good.
All right.
My life ain't as interesting as your guys's.
Well, I'm glad you guys joined us this week for the Halloween
no
special.
problem.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, I want to throw it up on
listening to your stories.
YouTube. Yeah, and so everybody out there, you guys have a safe and happy Halloween. This is Buff Elgato, BlueMark Entertainment, along with Alpha, AngryMan, bluphraust, Ultra, and Curtis. And we'll see you guys next week.